Hey, what is up? Welcome to the hub. Let a couple folks get in here. We'll get rolling. When you come in, if you don't mind, just pop into the chat, say hello. So I've got a few folks already joining. All right, let me get questions pulled up. Yeah, hit the like button, guys. That will let other folks know that we are here. Peter, what is up? Great to have you on. I would love to hear any new questions. I know you always have something good up your sleeve. Elliot, welcome to the call. Christopher, thanks for coming. All right, I'm gonna get questions. And so yeah, I'm gonna spend about 30 minutes and just answer some of you guys' questions. Some folks commented just some questions on videos. I'll address some of those and talk about any of the things that you guys have live here. Who else got on? Taylor, what's up? Great question, Taylor. I started the Dan Pena book. I didn't finish it. I haven't been to any of his trainings. I do have a couple of clients of mine that also went through his training, and I've only heard good things. So it hadn't necessarily impacted what I do, but just based off of what I'm hearing from clients that I really like. He's got some good stuff. I honestly love to go to his the thing in Scotland that he does. So would love to do that, but I have not made it over there yet. If you don't mind, guys, also hit the like button. Be sure to comment, introduce yourself when you get here. That would be great. Ralph, what is up? Frank, what's up? Ralph asks, why not do Puerto Rico instead of completely living outside of the US? I would love to do Puerto Rico, but I just don't like it that much. I love it for a couple of weeks. I tried it. So we have a fund that's based there. To take advantage of some of the amazing laws and I think this is just an underrated thing. One of the first questions I'm going to get to is what some of the conversation just around some of the new laws, tax laws, as far as just funds. And, that's one of the reasons that I'm really pushing people. If you're going to buy business, you should do it in kind of a fund structure. But Puerto Rico, again, there are a lot of reasons that you should, if you can, live in Puerto Rico. That's ideal. And if it weren't for having to be there 180 days, I would, even do it like I could stretch and even do 3 months. But I like to travel. And so to be stuck on a small island for 6 months is just really, really tough. And, for somebody that likes to travel, I like to be able to pick up and go. That's really the only reason. But, we've still been able to take advantage of it on the corporate level. We have an employee that is based full time in Puerto Rico that helps with the corporation, and he's an officer of the corporation. So all of that is really good stuff. Look who is here! My sister Melissa Chapman is here. What is up? What else we got? Okay, Ralph has mentioned Puerto Rico. Yeah, to avoid taxes. Yeah, I just think in general, it's one of the things that people even on a small level, don't pay enough attention to, because whether it's the expat law that I take advantage of, or it's taking advantage of Puerto Rico on the corporate level, whether it's doing things in a fund structure, like when you can pay 4 or 5% to the government instead of 40, like that's a return. That's a huge return. And to not do things to structure your business to take advantage of those kind of benefits, it's like you're working in spite of yourself. You're kind of working against yourself. Again, I'm gonna get to some of these. I'm gonna let a couple more folks get in, and we'll get into some of the questions. Nessa, do you mind bringing me that bottle of water? I forgot to bring it up. That's on the counter. Pretty please. Hit the like button. That helps us get shared to the other subscribers so they know about it. I'm gonna skip down to Peter's question. That is a great question, Peter. Thank you. That is a great question. So, as Melissa knows it, Carmelo, my nephew, is definitely elbowing his way into being able to drive the Tesla. So it'll probably be somewhere where it's accessible to him. So it's not gonna come out for 2 years. And he'll have been driving for about a year by the time it actually comes out. But I really want that thing. I hope they really, some people saying, oh, they're not going to make it. And, it's very weird, but it's kind of one of those things that you want to say you participated in, back in the day, there are all those random things that were at the end of the day, dumb. Like, when we were young, it was pet rocks, or having a Cabbage Patch Kid, or the garbage pail cards, just all those things. It's like, it's just, there are sometimes these cultural phenomenons that, are pretty cool. All right, I'm gonna pop back up. What else we got? I'll get into Income Store. Sammy, thanks so much. I'll definitely talk about Income Store, what that means for the industry. I've been talking to a lot of guys in the industry, and it's a very, very unfortunate thing. Definitely plan on talking about that while we're together. How much does investor make when they invest in biz opportunities? Example, Wiz Motion. So Wiz Motion is one of the it's the studio that we bought. So it's a 3D animation studio, does a lot of whiteboard videos, that kind of thing. So every deal that we do, it's pretty transparent. We're buying it at a certain multiple. When you calculate returns on a deal, you're going to base it on that multiple. But it's also depending on how well the managers, we do have a really amazing dude, Zion, who's running that business. So every deal that we do is a little bit different because we have somebody who's in the deal makers program who's running that business. So they do the deal, run the business, work with the seller, take over everything, and then we invest in that business alongside that person that's running it. So ideally, it ends up being the multiple that we bought it at. So if it's a 3 multiple, the typical return will be about 33%. If it's a 4 multiple, it's going to be about 25. It's a 2 multiple, it'll be about 50%. But it'll vary based on the deal. And but you want to go into these. That's why I made that last video where I talk about the importance of understanding that there are no guarantees in this stuff. And so, that's probably the biggest lesson from the Income Store is that, when there is some kind of guarantee, it's probably gonna not work long term. Let's see, there are ways. No one is tracking your presence there. I know. So the rapper's referring to the Puerto Rico thing. So, I could kind of based there, but spend a lot more time outside. I got a good buddy, Ron, who's the kind of employee we mentioned that is based there for the corporations, and he loves it. But yeah. So but the downside is if you ever did get caught, and so let's say something crazy, because I work in like worst case scenarios, and that's probably the other thing that's important. Like even when somebody's like, oh, what can be the return on this? Like I'm never looking at it positively. I'm like, okay, like maybe it gets 10%, maybe it gets 15, but I'm putting a small amount into a lot of deals. So, when you have a portfolio of 40, the goal is just that you're getting a decent return on all of them. But so my worst case scenario in the Puerto Rico thing is, somehow there's an audit and they look at your passport, because that part is tracked, and I'm traveling a lot. The last 2 months, I've been in either 6 or 7 countries. So if it did, and then I've got my Instagram, like I've got a lot of evidence. It would be very easy for them to do a little bit of search and be like, dude, it does not look like you're staying in Puerto Rico for 6 months. Gotham, I don't know how you pronounce that, but Gotham says, would it be possible to shadow you? We do have a program. You would work really closely with one of my most amazing students, Sam Leslie, and now partner in the PEPP program. And that's the closest to shadowing, I guess, that I do. So not a typical shadowing thing, just because if you were literally shadowing me, like I said, I've been in 6 or 7 countries in the last 2 months, so it would be difficult to physically shadow. We would definitely have to get pretty intimate there. Sammy says, love the content. Thank you for consistently posting. I am trying to get better. 2020 so far, this week, I'm very happy with everything that's been put out. Glad we got to get the interview with Ron. One of my things was to get more interviews this year done. And I want to just pull in people that are doing these deals and really making these things happen. And I thought that was a really cool one because I put the title as No Money Down, but it was basically a free business that now is generating 4 figures. So that's a unique situation, but getting to hear about those, you see these possibilities. So I got another interview that's coming up that is yet again, it's on the joint venture side. I love what this guy's doing. You guys are going to love it too. And he's like taking that joint venture concept and it just, create a business. It's basically a 6-figure business where he's not doing the work on either side. He is the in-between person, but providing some real value. But it was a business, with those kind of things, you're literally creating a business out of thin air. It's kind of like a fun, we had every quarter, usually I'll do a call with the group, and we did a call last night with some potential new clients. And one of the things that we were talking about is, we're doing a fund right now that almost is $1 million fund created out of thin air without raising any capital, because we're doing almost like a reverse merger into the fund of some businesses that will allow them to diversify and also instantly create this 7-figure fund. So that is something that I am super excited about. Comp investors, what's up, sir? Yeah. Wins Dealmaker Weekend. What's up? Cecil, what is up, man? Cecil is a member. I gotta get a Dealmakers Weekend. Get on Sam. Sam is in charge of that. So tell Sam to get that date, get the look. He is doing the work. He's got some hotels and all of that. We'll probably do at least one this year out of the country, somewhere close to the US, but outside of the country. So I am very excited about that, but we're gonna do. So Sam is on it and we're gonna make it happen. Zion, I just shouted you out, man. So, well, I actually, so I shouted you out on, I think a video. And just got some really amazing people that are doing a great job running these businesses, and that's what helps ensure that these things work, and that a lot of this stuff is real. It's just that they're real people that are running the businesses. I think it's very tough, and I had the question on income store. So one of the things that I'll mention on that is, I think it's really tough within a single business to run a bunch of different types of businesses and to do it successfully. I think that these types of businesses need to be led by an entrepreneur. And when you've got 800 businesses and there's just one entrepreneur at the top trying to run 800 small businesses, and this is why I say I really don't think that it would, I can't get into somebody's brain. I can't get into somebody's heart. I've met Ken a couple of times, not best friends, anything like that, but, spoke at the same event and interacted with him. And I don't get the vibe that he set out to start a Ponzi scheme and, make that his business. Like, I don't think that that's what happened. I think that he got in over his head. He was trying to do something. He didn't want to do right by folks, but the offer didn't make sense for the way that these deals work. And I have people all the time. They're just like, man, we have more capital than we have deals. And we could close more deals, but it's very methodical and very slow, because I do have to get somebody like Zion, who's on the call right now, up to speed to run the business. Somebody like Scott, who's doing an amazing job on our art business. Somebody like Elliot, who's doing a great job on the other art business. The people that we're investing in doing these deals are real folks. And so that our process takes a long time, as opposed to, hey, we're going to take this money and, go out and invest. And I also tell me all the time, like, I'm not going out searching for money. Like, with the money is the easy part. And it's the other reason that I want more people to get really good at managing these funds, is because that gets more of this money invested. All right, so got quite a few more folks on. Be sure when you come in, hit the like button. It's like knocking on the door, I feel like. You come to somebody's house, wipe your feet, hello, greet them. I feel like hitting the like button is just like saying hi. So say hi when you come in, hit the like button. We'll skip down to Zion's question, and then I do want to go to a couple comments again. Thanks for saying hi. I appreciate it. I appreciate it when you come in and say hi. There's an airplane coming. Check out this view. Yes. The downside is this is close to the smaller airport, so it's rare that there are planes, but every once in a while planes come through. So let's get to Zion. What's up, homie? You get to ask questions in person, and we're going to be on the phone here later tonight. I think we got a couple different calls, but we'll answer this here. When you get to be a decently sized fund, do you place more emphasis on growing your existing? This is a really, really great question, Zion. Do you put more emphasis on growing your existing businesses or growing by acquisition of more businesses, which tends to have a higher ROI? For me personally, it has been just this constant thing of buying more businesses. I think that ideally you're able to do both. I think it's very tough to do both, because the expertise that you need to be able to do both is just a tougher thing. Ideally, you're able to maintain that business and then use some of the cash flow, use the fact that you've got that business to grow through either joint ventures or acquisitions. So it's not, even when we're talking about acquisitions, what's just as good is joint ventures. And so I do want to do more of those videos where I'm talking about examples, because I think the only way you learn how to do joint ventures is through hearing a lot of examples. This is not a cookie cutter way to do it. But I think that those two tend to have a higher ROI. And like Darren, who I mentioned a second ago, I'm doing an interview with him, who literally created a six-figure business out of thin air by doing a joint venture between a couple of businesses. That is what's possible with joint ventures. So if you have a business, and like our businesses that we've got in that animation space, there's some value that we can take into another business and either get equity for that value and just some different things that can go there. For now, on that, one of the things that's a tip for you other guys is, when we get into a business, I really like for the first 6 months just to get really good at running the business the way it is. And then after those 6 months, you get into growing and all of that. But the idea is you're doing all three of those. Number one, the highest ROI is usually going to be an acquisition, because as soon as you close on that deal, you've increased your income. It's better than even an advertising campaign, because with an advertising campaign, you got to start spending the money, and eventually you get a few people and you figure out who's going to pay you and blah, blah, blah. But when you acquire a business, that income starts coming in immediately. Number two would be joint ventures. Number three would be organic growth. And happy to dig more into that on tonight's call, because with these, I'm typically spending like 3 minutes on some of these answers. Luke, hello, thanks for jumping on the call. Let's see some of these other comments. So one of the things, we had a really good series of comments back and forth, Mark and I, and well, even before that. So I do want to mention something I'm happy about, man. Todd, what's up? It's been a minute. Great to have you here, man. One project that I'm very excited about, and I'm actually doing my first call with him in a bit, is, as you guys know, I have a teenage nephew. And so I'm going to be doing a little kind of mini program. And I have some thoughts on how I thought when I was a teenager, did my first deal at 19 and that kind of thing, and things that I would teach a teenager. And so for you folks that have kids, like I'm planning on basically recording that and making that something that you guys will be able to follow when we get to the end. But it's basically, if I had a kid, the things that I would tell them about how to think about money, how to think about your life, designing the life that you want, how to think about, even education and just all of those things. So investing and all that. So if that's something folks are interested in, let me know. Probably more for folks that have kids or plan on having kids. All right. Let's see. So Mark had asked, the difference between starting a private equity firm and starting a private equity fund. What most people think about, and really what a firm is just a business. It's just like, I'm going to start a business, I'm going to start buying other businesses. And that's a lot of what we've done in the past. And over the last 10 years, obviously, I've been investing in funds. And sometimes it takes me doing something in order to look back and see, okay, like, why was this more successful compared to when I just did a deal outside of the fund? And why was this fund more successful than this private equity firm? And one of the things that is a huge difference between the two is just the way that you think about these deals. I think when you run a private equity fund, you understand that you're in the capital business. And so you make it your business to manage that capital because that's all you're doing. And there are legal benefits, there are tax benefits, there are all those things, and there's leverage benefits to accessing capital, and then you're building a track record so that you can leverage that into more capital. And so there are all these other benefits, but just on a psychological level, I've found that the clients that are actually thinking of their business as a fund, and it is a fund they're treating, and they're managing a fund, it becomes very simple. Warren Buffett understands, and he is a business, so that's one of the things that's interesting. But he really does manage Berkshire Hathaway like it is a fund. When you get into Steve Schwartzman, obviously they do have a bunch of private equity funds. When you get to KKR, when you're treating your business like, okay, this is an investment business, I've got a certain amount of capital, and this is what I'm talking to you guys about all the time when it comes to diversification, when it comes to being able to learn from a loss and go to the next one. The typical business buyer that comes to me after they have an issue and they've gone out, they bought a business, their broker convinced them to get an SBA loan, and now that business has failed. That person is just a business buyer, and now in some cases their financial life is ruined, and they are having to kind of start over and figure things out. When you look at a private equity fund, I gave the example of Ray Dalio, which is just an investment fund in general. It's a totally different thing. You're in the investment fund business, and people understand, hey, there are ups and downs. You know what I mean? And that's just the reality of this business. You look at it, again, bringing up the income story thing. If you look at the income story, if they had built if you just raised the 80 million and built a fund, that changes everything. It's like, okay, we had these deals and it lost, and maybe some people want to pull out their money and that kind of thing, but you're not dead. Ray Dalio lost everything in this Bridgewater fund. Lost everything, had to borrow $4,000 just to be able to eat from his parents. But, it's like, hey, I learned from that. I'm trying to go. He just didn't get as much money, got a little bit, was able to prove himself. And so in that game, it's easy to get the ups. People, you're more valuable. You're just more valuable when you have those huge losses, and you see it a lot. There is the manager of Green Light Funds, I think it's called Green Light, but he's had some big, huge wins, has some big, huge losses, but still has a $1 billion fund. So that's something for you guys to think about. Sam brought up Barbarians at the Gate. That's a great one to read. KKR is at the center of that. I just mentioned that fund. It's a great read. So he says, upon your advice, I read Barbarians at the Gate. Thanks for the suggestion. No problem, homie. And deal structure. When does leveraging debt become too great? Yes, this is another important part. It ties into this fund thing. How much do you expect clients to place as a down payment? So I'm not a big fan. I've said this for a long time, and I get a lot of flack because I've had people that reach out to a broker, and the broker's like, oh, you just go and you get this loan and it's going to be all great. And then they look up a video and they come to me and they're like, so what do you think about SBA loans? I'm like, well, I'll just tell you the facts. If you go out and you get an SBA loan, you don't have to go through the work. I talk to you guys all the time about doing the work. You don't have to go through the work and the headache of dealing with investors and, in our case, trying to build the legal structure and all that stuff. You don't go through that. It's a lot of work. But after you get that loan, the SBA and the bank that is giving you that SBA loan, because also remember, SBA is just the insurance. Most of the lending in the internet, if you're talking about internet businesses, most of the lending is going to be SBA. When you get into offline businesses, there's a lot of options. You get an AR financing, you get into asset-based lending, you get into equipment leasing. There's a lot of options. But when it comes to these internet businesses, you're gonna probably, if you're talking about lending, it's either the seller or the SBA lender. And obviously for a broker, it's in their best interest that you get an SBA loan, because that gives the seller all their money up front. That person, that's the broker, gets their commission all up front, and neither of them have any risk anymore. The broker doesn't have any risk. The seller doesn't have any risk. You're stuck with 100% of the risk, which is, and really it could be 90, because they'll allow the seller to do like 10%. Seller financing. So you end up with 90% of the risk. And that risk is not just like, oh, well, if things don't go right, then I lose this business. They put a lien against all of your assets. So they have a lien against your house, against your car, against your bank account, against other businesses you run. They want everything. And so, like we said, we know that there's no investment fund outside of a Ponzi scheme. There's no private equity investor that outside of even the income story that says, oh, we're going to make money forever. Bernie's claim to be making money forever, that was fake. We see with the income story, you say you're making money forever and on everything in private equity, that's not gonna work. So we know that you're gonna lose. And so if this happens to be one of those losses, why would you take on debt like that? It's much more forgiving when you're in the private equity world. All right, let's see, what else we got? I do want to pop over. I'm gonna just do one here, and then I'll do one from the list of questions that came in. Chris says, hi, Ace, is there a typical size for an average micro PE fund? And how many investments across that first fund? So it's probably it's gonna be under 12 million, because you get over that and then you get outside of it. I feel like I won't do another large. The largest I've done was 12 million. And my thought at that point was, okay, I'm going to go, after, it's like, okay, it's like 100,000, then a million, then 12 million. Now we're going to double that to 25 million and go and increase that. But there's some benefits to the small fund. And, on one end, I've got folks that you can start a fund with 50 grand. I've got Laurent and Justin, I think they were putting together something of like 300,000. For me, I feel like my next one, well, I'm telling you, I've got one right now that is $1 million. But I wouldn't do probably above 5. And so on $1 million, I feel like a sweet spot is the million, but it could be 50,000, 100,000, whatever, because it doesn't have to be this big thing. And part of it is that it's easier to build a really great track record on the small ones. That's what I was telling Laurent and Justin on theirs is, if you're doing a $200,000 fund, it's a little bit easier to get some really great returns and then be able to go back and do some more. Got some more folks on. Thanks so much for jumping on. Let me know if that answered your question. I'm gonna pop over and get one more question from the comments. All right, got this question. What do you think of patience? This is from Andrew Ornosky. What do you think of patience or patient urgency? Or is patience something you really don't need if you purely focus on making this moment extraordinary? And this is in the video where I talk about how to ensure that you never lose at this whole game of business or micro private equity or whatever game that you're in. And for me, I think one of the things that my mentor put on me that was really interesting, it was was almost weird that I talked a lot about the future. I talked a lot about my net worth and net worth. I mentioned before, like it's kind of the measure and stick of wealth for dummies, because the Wall Street wants you to think about net worth as opposed to like how much money am I making today. And the thing there that he really put an emphasis on is that it's a little bit of a trick to think too much in the future. Your goals should be, a lot more short term. And if you're always, like his thing literally was, if you're always making, like let's say every single day is a positive, even when you pay your mortgage, like that day, you're making more money than that mortgage payment, if that's your biggest expense. Or, even when you pay all your utilities and your car bill, like if every day is a plus, if you're adding money into your bank account every single day, the future will take care of itself. And a lot of times it's easy to get into a mode where you're thinking, oh, like, yeah, like this sucks for now. And it goes beyond a day. It's like, all right, yeah, these months aren't that great, but, I'm putting money in like 20 years from now, 30 years from now, things are going to be good. And it's a lot tougher thing. It's a lot more work to say, man, how do I do the work? How do I not go to sleep until things are amazing today? So it's who knows if that's right or wrong, but that's I took that on when my mentor gave it to me, and that's been a lot of my focus. Now, granted, it's ended up that, now I am focusing now on, okay, the future and those kind of things. But I think it's a powerful mind shift to think about, making every day a plus, adding into the bank account every day, figuring out how to increase your investments every day, and as opposed to, depending on the future. Let's see what we got. Luke, are having software engineering skills at all helpful for acquisitions, as tech seems more and more central to many business, or did I massively waste my time learning code skills? I think it's valuable. I think it's extremely valuable. But, I think it's not necessary. Ron, in that last interview, is a case in point of that. But it's a pro and con. Like I told him after that interview, we were talking a little bit, and he was saying how, like it sucked. Like he was in this situation. He was worried that he wasn't going to be able to find somebody to get the development done. He ended up getting somebody. But I think the other side of that was that it forced him to still think like a deal maker and go, make a deal to get that part done, and then make another deal to get, the improvements on the software and turn it into what it is today. So I think it can be an asset, but I think it would have been a detriment to what the deal became if he had to sit back and do if he had that skill set. He was like, oh, forget this guy, I'm going to do all the work. And then, over the course of 2 years, he's doing a ton of that work. So I think it's a skill set, but you want to leverage it in pulling other people to the table, because I don't think, one of the things that my guys in the program always know that I harp on is don't do low ROI tasks, and don't learn, you guys, I did a video on this, but don't learn low ROI skills. So I do think the ROI can be cool at if it's used to manage other people. That's when that skill becomes, instead of just like a job of me doing the work, it becomes I can pick out really talented people. I can look at a piece of software that's for sale and do due diligence on the software. That's something a lot of people can't do. Like it's trying to figure out how can I leverage this skill set so that it's a high ROI skill as opposed to a low. April, what is up? And we got, I love when, so many dudes, man. So many dudes. So I love when we get some females on. All right. So we get the question, how to build clientele for starting a business. How much would you pay someone to make an app? How much would I pay someone to make an app? Man, that really greatly depends on if it's like, so, we own a business right now that's in the travel industry. And one of the things that we've talked about is creating an app for that particular business. Now, that's the only time so by the way, I would not be creating an app from scratch just based off an idea, but I might do it if I feel like it's something that is going to improve a business that I already own. And it's going to strictly be ROI based. It's like, hey, we got this many clients. We think we can make this much off of this app. We want to make sure we get this ROI. And then you kind of work your way back into this is the max that we would pay for that. Chris, no props, sir. You are very welcome. Sherry, glad you're back, sharing your knowledge. Thank you for coming and checking it out and commenting. I appreciate it. And I am very glad to be back. Andrew, what's up? That was just your question, man. Thanks for coming on. How do you build team to manage acquisitions, or how are you managing the investments? So this is great. I just talked about this. I don't think that the one part, because in this him asking a question, I need to get another part. So I think you were just joining, but I was talking about the fact that I don't think that employees can manage these businesses. I think that was one of the hiccups with the income store. I think it's really, really tough. We know that 50% of these things fail when you have a passionate entrepreneur who's got everything on the line that's pushing this thing. It's still a high failure rate. So when you throw employees in there, it's not going to get better. So we know that. What I found is, and it's cool. I've got somebody here that actually is running one of the acquisitions. And what it takes is having somebody who is going to be that entrepreneurial person that is a deal maker and is going to lead that and have that business be a part of their portfolio. And that moves you kind of up. Like my goal is with my clients to move them up the totem pole, and that also moves me up. And so at first it was, hey, let me show you how to buy a business, and then I invest. And that was back when multiples were way lower. There were way more opportunities. It was just easy. You were getting great deal structures. Then it became, okay, now because of where you're buying a business, buying a business at one multiple and it goes out of business even after 1 year, you got all your money back. There's not a ton of risk. When you're doing it at 3 multiple and it goes out of business after 6 months, that changes everything. So you lost a ton of money. So you got to be a lot more careful. And that's when we start moving towards, all right, you got to have a portfolio. And then it moved towards, you really have to be in a fund structure because of the tax benefits and having the mentality of managing capital. And so now my goal is though I want to invest in their funds. I want them to be fund managers. I want them to have people running those businesses, and I want to invest in the fund and some of you guys' funds. So my goal with Zion is that he's going to have a fund, and this gets to be one part of his fund. I want to invest in his fund and kickstart that so that I become kind of this private equity fund angel. Keep in mind, I got 3 more minutes before I got to bounce. I'll get a couple more of these, but cool thing, be sure you guys hit the subscribe button and the notification. I'll be doing these more regularly, and hopefully we'll all be able to grow and all get more deals done in 2020. Coming to ask, do you believe that a business based on a white label product service would still be valuable for new buyers? Yeah, I do. I think that there's a algorithm that you can almost apply to that, where that it's no matter what, if something has positive cash flow, there's a certain value to it. We were looking at a deal. What was that deal? I can't remember what it was. Oh, I've got, yeah, it's actually the other deal Ron is thinking about doing. And we actually, right now, the idea was buying it at a 1.25 multiple. And the reason is because the churn is super high. And so if you got super high churn, like the value just isn't going to be there. But there are all these other things, but there's still some value. So it's still worth 1.25 multiple on the deal, but it's not going to be a 2 months, it's not going to be a 3 multiple. So same thing with this, with a white label product, you're not building something that's going to be the highest multiple, but you are building something as that's going to be valuable. And you were already there. I didn't read your second part. For example, would it decrease the multiple? Exactly. Thanks so much for joining the call, guys. Really appreciate the little community that we have here. Got some awesome folks doing some cool things, and everybody's really involved. And I think I didn't get to talk about what I think the impact of Income Store will be on the industry, but suffice to say, I think that we have a great community of really good folks, and there's a huge opportunity here that is only growing. It's only going to get bigger. And I think even based on some of the amazing questions and interactivity on this small channel, it represents a pretty strong foundation that is this buying and selling business space. So thanks so much for joining, and I'll talk to all of y'all soon.